So the Kansas City site has historically been known for the capability, both in our technicians and in our new manager development. So really the site was viewed highly positively, leading a number of network and benchmark results, and just outstanding. Yeah, after passing the IWS Phase 3 audit in May 2017, the site continued to accelerate results and was on a great trajectory. Then, unfortunately, in February 2018, the site closure was announced.
Procter and Gamble said that its plant in KCK will close in 2020 as the company transfers production to a plant in West Virginia.
Procter and Gamble announces plans to leave Kansas City, leaving the future in question for hundreds of workers.
Ellen, Procter and Gamble is working with a local union to help those employees transition, and we learned today that union has an emergency meeting scheduled on Monday.
Cynthia, we're talking about 280 full-time employees here at the Procter & Gamble plant with an additional 350 contract employees, bringing that total to 630 people who will be looking for a new job or transferring with P&G come mid-2020. Now, the plant manager.
So this site has a strong history over 115 years. So if you think back when the site was initially chosen, the logistics were fantastic. So we have the Kansas River bordering on one side, we've got the rail yard proximity right just north of the plant, you've got I-70, so good trucking logistics, and not to mention the raw material feed that we had here in the Kansas meat packing industry. And if you think about the site, it's evolved over time to produce lots of different products, right? Starting first with bar soap, over time has made dry laundry products, multiple chemicals, and most recently, of course, has focused primarily on dish soap. So you're going to hear next a little bit more about the history of the site.
In the early decades of the 19th century, two immigrants from Europe, unknown to each other, planned to travel farther west when they happened to settle in Cincinnati for reasons of health. William Proctor, an English immigrant and candle maker, and James Gamble, an Irish immigrant and soap maker, married sisters Olivia and Elizabeth Norris. Their father-in-law, Alexander Norris, convinced his new sons-in-law to become business partners. As a result, a bold new enterprise was born in 1837, Procter and Gamble. By 1859, sales of bar soaps and candles reached $1 million annually, and the company employed 80 people. With the outbreak of the Civil War, Procter & Gamble is awarded multiple contracts to provide soap for the Union Army. This led to explosive growth as the company's reputation grew as servicemen brought their soap home. By the 1890s, P&G was producing over 30 different kinds of soap, with growth helped by innovative full-color print ads. The company was ready to expand outside of Cincinnati for the first time. At the turn of the 20th century, Kansas City was the largest city between St. Louis and San Francisco. As a transportation hub, it was served by 12 different rail companies that reached every corner of the United States. For over 5,000 years, humans have used animal fats to make soap, and Kansas City had a healthy supply of animal fat. The Big Five meatpacking companies, Armour, Swift, Cudahy, Schwarzschild and Salzburger, and Wilson, made Kansas City second only to Chicago for meat production. And Kansas City was already a soap-making town, as the Peet Brothers Soap Company, later known as Colgate-Palmolive, was established in the 1870s. In the spring of 1903, 23 acres were purchased to build a soap plant along the Kaw River in Kansas City, Kansas. The $1 million investment resulted in production starting by the end of 1904. Housing was scarce at that time, and many P&Gers lived in tents along the riverbanks until permanent housing was available. The first shipment of finished soap bars was on January 9, 1905. Brands produced that first year were Ivory, Denver's Best, Lenox, and Whitewater. Many employees walked to work from the nearby neighborhoods of Armourdale, Turner, and Argentine. Some took the streetcar to the closest stop at 7th and Kansas and then walked over a mile to work.
I came to P&G because of my dad. He was very proud of the fact that he had only worked for two employers, the United States Navy and Procter & Gamble. And so if you do the math, there was about 80 years of Bill Stoker's here, because his name was Bill Stoker also. Procter and Gamble at that time was very unusual in that they required people to be high school graduates. And in fact, you had to prove that you were a high school graduate. So, and the other reason I came was because they paid the magnificent wage of $3.25 an hour in 1968, which was a good wage too.
For the next 30 years, the plant expanded facilities and produced bar soaps and flaked soaps, including the brands Cam-A, Lady Godiva, Olive, and P&G's first laundry soap, Oxydol. In the 1930s, P&G sponsored and produced radio dramas that came to be called soap operas. By the end of the 1930s, P&G's first synthetic detergents, Dreft, began the move away from soaps derived from animal fats.
I was one of the first women who ever went to the MSL department, which was the making sulfated liquids. And everyone was pretty scared. It was a chemical processing department and everybody tried to shy away from it. It had had a death a few years prior to when I hired in. And so when they told me I was going to MSL, I was a little freaked out, but decided it would be a great challenge for me. I was a chemistry major in college, kind of been in several roles since then, and then my current one is the surfactants unit leader.
In the 40s, as World War II raged in Europe and the Pacific, it affected the Kansas City plant. As 166 men left the plant to go to war, women stepped in to keep the plant running. The Kansas City plant directly aided the war effort by making glycerin, used to make dynamite, and their soaps were used for numerous cleaning and lubricating applications across all military branches. The iconic brand Tide was launched and to this day remains the most popular laundry detergent in the world.
You know, I came to this plant when I was in grade school because the plant's in my hometown. I was born and raised in Kansas City, Kansas, and I remember having a tour here, and I remember seeing this powder, come out of a funnel and going into a box, and I remember it smelled so terrible outside in the environment that I had said, I'll never work there. That place is so smelly, I would never work there.
In the 50s, the plant was expanded to its current 66 acres by purchasing properties on the north side. The Great Flood of 1951 shut the plant down for 13 days after water rose to the top of rail cars and damaged or swept away tanks. A tremendous effort by plant employees to moving materials and equipment from lower floors to upper floors before the flood, and then a massive cleanup and repair job enabled the plant to resume operations just 9 days after the waters receded. The production of Joy dish soap, alcohols, and Zest bar soaps were added in that decade. In the 1960s, the plant reached its greatest mix of products, and its largest enrollment of over 600 employees and its products included bar soaps, liquid soaps, synthetic granules, alcohols, amines, other feedstocks used throughout P&G. Brands in that era included Clorox, Lava, Cheer, Ivory Snow, Kirk's Castile, Mr. Clean, Safeguard, plus Spick and Span.
Diversity principle that P&G encompasses, it's a lot more than just saying you're a diverse company. If you're not building it into the fabric of what you're doing every day, then truly and really, how can you be effective by saying you're a diverse company? And I think P&G is doing an extreme amount of work to make sure that the people are here don't feel alone and saying, hey, guess what, I'm different than you, but I appreciate having you here, and this is how we're gonna get better.
Since the 1970s, the plant's overall production remained steady as the plant was transformed into primarily liquid dish soap and chemicals production. Labor disputes in the early 1970s and mid-1980s erupted into short labor stoppages. Eventually, cooperation increased from both sides, and the plant continued to evolve as an essential piece of the Procter and Gamble supply chain system. Clorox was sold. Bar soaps and dry laundry were relocated or discontinued, and increased automation allowed growth in shipments while enrollment slowly shrank to approximately 300 employees and 300 various contracted roles over those years.
When I first started at Procter & Gamble, I remember vividly like it was yesterday. There was just a mass of piping configurations, just equipment, and not having that type of background, it was pretty intimidating. And so I thought to myself, okay, what did I get myself into? During that time, I learned how to make soap. And so it sounds like it might be pretty simple, but there's a lot of things, I often tell people, there's a lot of ingredients that go into making soap that would kind of floor you.
Throughout its history, P&G employees have enjoyed time outside of work, playing or working together. Athletics and competition at the plant and in the community have always been an important part of plant culture. While it has always been a fiercely competitive process to get on at the plant to be a full-time employee, it is said that for many years one of the most important interview questions was, "Can you play softball?" or another similar question on your athletic ability. Since 1980, P&G was a major sponsor and participant in the Kansas citywide annual Corporate Challenge competition.
My favorite activity outside the plant with coworkers definitely is Corporate Challenge. In Corporate Challenge, I was mostly in running events, so track and field, 5K, half marathon, team triathlon, but I also did volleyball, shot put, really anything where we needed participation points.
Environmental compliance and sustainability are hallmarks of P&G culture. In 2015, the plant was certified as Zero Manufacturing Waste to Landfill. For the past 5 years, approximately 300 tons of material are recycled each month, and any manufacturing waste that can't be recycled is incinerated with energy recovery. Impacting the community in which we work and live is part of the DNA of Proctor and Gamble. Habitat for Humanity, Community Blood Center mobile drives, Science Fair, and United Way are just a few of the many programs helped by our giving in the community.
Standard process, always done. We do tests every 5 or so years, and Dawn seems to always come out on top. Our ultimate goal is to release them back into the wild, and that is the most rewarding part of this whole thing.
Kansas City has an extremely high level of skill in their workforce. Procter & Gamble in general, as a company, has a real passion to make high-quality products, and they want to change consumers' lives all the time. And they mean that relative to their products.
From the very first dividend days to our more recent company picnics, site celebrations, and family days, P&G likes to have fun together and with our families.
When I heard the plant was closing, I was just sad. Through my history with the site, there were plenty of times when I thought the plant would close. Back in the early 80s, during some of the labor disputes and the productivity issues and reliability in the plant, if it would have been up to me, I would have closed the plant. But it makes me sad that after 115 years, the site won't be a source of good paying jobs and a contributor to the company. But I also recognize that in the big scheme of things, that's just the way the world works.
Some of the enduring legacies that our plant will leave behind is our reputation for technical excellence and as an exporter of talent within P&G. The most recent example was our plant being selected to develop the new-to-the-world rapid changeover technology. Engineers and technical experts from P&G and our partner firms across the globe worked together to develop Line 13, make it work, and then reapply it at P&G sites around the world.
Procter & Gamble has done our family very well. They've done it very well I'm a third generation, and my son now is a fourth generation. And I know there's a big disappointment with his son to the point that their school project, they even had them write an important person. A lot of the kids wrote letters to President Trump. Well, Joseph wrote a letter to David Taylor and expressed his disappointment that he would not also get to work at the soap plant where his dad worked.
Since 1837, P&G has built a rich heritage of touching consumers' lives with brands that make life a little better every day. This plant has survived 6 wars, 2 natural disasters, the Great Depression, and countless innovations. For 115 years, the Kansas City Proctor and Gamble plant and its people were significant contributors to the company and the community.
The 115-year history of Procter & Gamble in Kansas City is something that we can all be proud of. And while operations will cease later this year, the legacy of Procter & Gamble Kansas City will live on in the community and in P&G. And it's this legacy that we can all be proud of.
The legacy of excellence, ingenuity, and tenacity live on through the many people that passed through this plant and went on to apply those lessons throughout P&G and beyond. Proud to be P&G. Proud to be the Kansas City manufacturing plant.